This video is speed up modeling, and my story is a background how I started my study in CGI. It was my first Maya model. I learned the basics of modeling on this model, rigging, enclosed simulation, texturing through the UV, through installed Maya settings and through the nodes. Lighting settings, camera settings, nerve script modeling, animation levels, the difference between correct render for video and as a frame. If you want to hear how I started and know what tools you should never ever use in your work, watch this video. Hello to everyone, this is Karina. I'm 22 years old. I've been studying computer graphics for 2 years for now. To be more precise, I'm completely focused on studying the Maya program. However, I also tried and used other programs. In this video, I will show you the process on working on my first completed model in the program. In fact, before this model, I've made other models, but never completed them, or at least never created texture. And this is the first one completed with texture and with rig. I wouldn't call this work good, but I'm satisfied with the result and the process. I did a lot of work and I want to remember how it was. These are my subsequent works if you are interested. There are not many of them, but after studying modeling, I concentrated on animation and rigging, which I am now still studying. Probably start from the very beginning. When and how did I become interested in computer graphics for movies, cartoons and video games? I was 14 years old. This is my first time downloading the Maya software and trying to learn it from the lectures on YouTube. It was just 3 lectures and a lot of problems. The program crashes, or you accidentally press an unknown button and your workplace is deleted, or something happens to the model and all your attempts to get it back as it was are useless. A year has passed. I download Maya again. Again, I make a student license of the program. Again, nothing changes. Lots of desire, little result. And this continued year after year until recently. For those who don't know, the Maya software was the ideal of the industry at the time. It still remains the one that industry works on. A few years ago, suddenly, the Blender software began to conquer the market. At the moment, hundreds of thousands of students begin their journey into computer graphics with Blender. Mine has started with Maya. Blender is now used in studios around the world. There is some debate whether Blender will displace the Maya program or not. I definitely cannot answer this question for you, but there is one thing I can answer for sure. Blender, like a free analog of Maya, allows you to model at the highest level and let you find work. But specifically in animation, the Blender program is still far from Maya, and Maya remains at the throne of the industry. Whatever, for me, I have a sentimental connection with the program, since I was studying it for years with no result. Now as I started making progress, I do adore Maya. Countless attempts has passed. It's more than I love. At the top pop-up tab, you can look at my other videos where I talk about computer graphics industry, what programs to use if you want to start studying CGI for your future job. Here is just a part of my personal story. By the way, for those who are not well versed in the terminology of 3D graphics and do not quite understand what I'm talking about or intending to, I will leave the terminology in description of this video to make things easier for you. It'll make your understanding more convenient. Autodesk Maya. Maya's annual license costs $1,875, and if you pay for the license each month, then $235 will do. Agree, it's quite expensive as a hobby or a start. That's why free Blender software started to increase in popularity. Anyway, to your surprise, there's an option to download Maya for free. And no, you don't have to hack the Maya. All you need to do is register your student license on the official website. A student license allows students or anyone interested to use the program study for 3 years. And there are no particular restrictions in this license. You can do almost the same things in it as the paid version. In fact, you can completely remove almost from the sentence. In my experience, people who have been working on creating cartoons for years do not use these tools. Since there are few of them, they're not particularly needed. All tools in the free and paid versions are identical. No difference. And when you find a job in the industry, the studio itself will provide you with the access key to the program. And so, since 2014, every year I've been downloading my software, trying to figure it out. And every single time, after about 3 or 5 video lectures, nothing worked out for me. The program at that time was giving a lot of problems. Press the wrong button, something has disappeared, something stopped working, something crashed down. Something has always went wrong. And then you sit for hours looking for solutions to simple or difficult problems. In those days, some problems or lags constantly arose in the program, and there was almost no information on how to solve them on the internet. Or at least, it was hard to find or to understand. I still remember those times when my program was lagging and crashing down, and yet no automatic saving of the project, and I was taught to save the project every 2 minutes. Now, when the Maya crashes, the program saves the latest version of the project as a corrupted file. When you open it, you will not be able to continue working on the file itself, but you just save it as another file in order to continue working. Technology has become more convenient. As for modeling, I also tried to study at the time Cinema 4D, ZBrush, Blender, but my main interest has always been Maya, and it is still Maya, due to the popularity of the program in Hollywood cinema industry and an endless list of projects from the film industry and game industry where Maya was used. At the age of 16, I also tried to master 2D animation, like vector animation and also frame by frame. I used Anime Studio and Toon Boom Harmony softwares. By the way, here are my first animations in 2D vector animation that I made when I was 16. I never succeeded in frame-by-frame Toon Boom Harmony animation, but in any case, learning stop-motion animation gave me skills that later turned out to be very useful. This is the study of posing characters in motion, the study of anatomy, that's quite important, the psychology of the body behavior and composition, as well as the visual transmission of the character emotion through the posture. If we move a little away from computer graphics, I can also mention that I work in programs such as Adobe Premiere, Adobe After Effects, in those for photography, Photoshop and Illustrator. By the way, here are my photography works. And this is all from the age of 12, when I was a teenager. In fact, I never stopped using all these programs. I use some of them in my work, more like a hobby actually, on an ongoing basis till this day. My tradition routine was constantly making unsuccessful attempts to master in some of the programs each year. Every year. Well, some of them was actually successful, like Photoshop or Adobe Premiere. And even Maya, like right now. Looking back, I'm surprised it never occurred to me to give up. Not a single thought came. Perhaps I should applaud to my little self. I guess I was really in love with cinema culture and visual art. Any visual art. I also studied programming, but nothing actually came out of it, except only the experience of writing a website on HTML and buying domain and servers, or spending days on watching introduction on C++ and JavaScript languages. Gosh. I still have a C++ book at home. I bought it because I heard that computer graphics are programmed in this language. At the time, I actually didn't know what exactly this language was used for. If you're interested, this is Unreal Engine. Besides working with nodes, basics of C++ could be actually useful for you. By the way, this summer I created a computer game using the Unity engine, using the labyrinth model I've made in Maya and downloaded models from the official Unity store.
I'm talking to you. I'm here, Bruce. How dare you disturb the rest of the box? This is our last warning. How dare you disturb the rest of the box?
I was programming it on C#. I mastered my programming skills in tears. Gosh, programming seems quite hard task to work. I mean, it feels quite impossible for me. Anyway, that's quite a different story. Maybe someday I'll make a video of it. Years was passing. Maya was still downloaded on my computer more often than other softwares. Every year, until 2021. I was making useless attempts to master it. Since 2021, I've completely immersed in studying this program. It was now or now. Like I didn't know the word never. I just knew I have to do it now. I needed to find a job. I wanted it so bad. My classes in this program become less and less frequent. I realized that things wouldn't work this way. I threw myself into work. I had to find a lot of money somewhere to pay for my course in London. And my days have come. Sleep is work, work is dream. Sleep, work, work, sleep. Saving money, looking information about visas, according to the deadlines, for money, accommodation, blah blah blah. A little later, one of the most difficult periods came for me. Everything I worked on for gradually began to crumble. Everything I've been fighting for since I was 14 years old, this study abroad, dreams of working abroad, my principles, my worldview, my financial independence in some way, my investment projects, and so on, collapsed. And it's not actually about computer graphics, but I just cannot say what it was about. It was more like life itself, and the borders it created for me, it was almost impossible to avoid. I even had a small moment of depression based on the situation worldwide, when I couldn't get out of the bed to eat or like all the rest. My mother actually helped me at that moment. She dragged me out of this depression. It was quite unexpected. She probably don't even know how she helped me at that moment. Well, maybe she should know. In fact, there's a lot here that I desperately want to tell you, but I just cannot tell. Therefore, a minimum of details. Spring 2022. I'm studying my program again at home. I'm hitting the walls in attempts, obstacles, and any disruption of my plans won't deter me. I will break the walls that suffocate me. Considering the situation in the world, I will achieve what I want at any price. Well, anyway, that period has passed. I'm now in Italy and I'm super happy about super happy about it. I love Italy. So, finally, the first progress is being made. I'm finally making my first models easily. I quickly changed the settings and solved problems. I was making models. Some are unfinished, somewhat complete but without texture. This figure, what you see now in this video, is the first completed figure along with the texture. Making it, I learned quite a lot of basics of modeling, texture, simulation and rigging, and also Maya tools that I found out I should avoid while modeling. If you want to create a good professional model, you should avoid these tools too. By the way, although the model is stunning, it still cannot be called good. From a professional point of view, there are several reasons, and here is why. First, of course I knew that while modeling you have to try to create as few polygons, edges and vertices as possible, but in the middle of the process I somehow forgot about it. Therefore, the lower part of the well is overloaded with many stones with many polygons. This was due to the fact that I created texture of the lower part of the well in Maya, and the stones were allocated over the surface. It was the scan of the rock. Then I modified its shape, so each one was different from the other. In addition to this, I also have a rope which also contains many polygons. By the way, I also created a switch between the rig of the rope and the rope with enclave technology, so it can be moved and animated in two styles, as I want. Firstly, when the character twists the handle of the rope itself, winds around the cylinder form handle, this is enclave. Next, we switch to the rig, and then we can move the basket and rope as needed so that the character can take water from the basket. By the way, funny story, while I was in search how to create a texture for the rope, which I actually didn't found, I came across about some video how to make glass texture, light texture and several other textures. And I was actually curious how to make glass texture, like transparent texture, but I watched the whole video. And at the end of the video, blogger showed how to create an orange texture. And I realized that's what I need for my rope. Orange texture would fit perfectly on the rope. Funny, isn't it? I hope it's funny. Of course, this model is not for games, it's more likely for cinema, or even more likely in some kind of video where you can combine naturally made shots, pictures, video, and then add a well model as a VFX, like a video for Instagram, for example. But obviously I was creating more for cartoonish style. Okay, Here you can see a huge number of polygons. If you look at the screen, naturally all these parameters make the model very heavy, and this is difficult to work with on its own. How should it have been done? You should ask me. It was enough to use the cylinder and make a texture of the stone or brick in Substance Painter or Substance Designer. But I have just only begun to master these programs. It just started, and at that moment I'm still far from good work inside these programs. You shouldn't add one stone to the project and modify it a million times that it doesn't seem the same and copy it hundreds of times along the entire perimeter of the well. Like, you shouldn't do this. In any case, I don't regret doing exactly this process. It taught me a lot. Most of all, I liked working with UVs and nodes to create texture. I found out the lighting settings, works, material settings, metalness, surface scattering, and other parameters. Second, tools that I can recommend never ever use in your life at Maya. Do not use, or at least if possible. If you want to work in the modeling industry as a professional, this is Boolean tool. I'm not sure about other programs like Blender, but I'm sure it's the same. Maya Blender never use the Boolean tool. This tool allows you to cut one model from another. In consequence, the polygon mesh will be broken. It can still look good with texture, but it would not be possible to animate, or better, it can work for some time on the project and then suddenly break. In addition, there is a very important thing. While using Boolean tool, you are left with this orange ghost model in addition, and you can hide it or delete it. Move it to the side if you didn't leave it in the same place in advance. Even if this thing is transparent while rendering, it can be reflected on metal objects. But that's not even the problem. The problem is that the tool breaks the model polygon mesh. If you delete the history of the project, it might create the problems with the model in the future. But if you leave this orange ghost model, everything seems okay. If you export the model in OBJ format and loaded this item into Unity, it probably look good. But still, my suggestion is try not to use booleans ever. They're just too unsustainable, causing weird unfixable problems down the line. There's always a way in Maya to model something without using Boolean. For example, building a hole by repositioning the vertices using V button. I subsequently learned about it from my friend who teaches animation at 2 or, if I'm not mistaken, 3 American universities. He also works as an animator in Cartoon Studio. He told me that using Boolean tool is not welcomed in cartoon creation studios. There are a million ways to avoid using this tool, so do it. Get everything right in terms of polygonal mesh is really important, even if it takes you half an hour longer. Do it, because it's basically what you're paid for. Why is that? Because a model built with Boolean tool can at any moment stop behaving as intended, roughly speaking to break, and then your saved half an hour will turn into redoing your work, and for texturing, rigging, and animation artists, many days of work, and of course, financial losses for the company. So now you know this rule. Do not ever use the Boolean tool. Now you're ready to work for the industry. 3. I created the wood texture for the well using ready-made free UV on the internet. I learned how to cut the model correctly and line it up in a small space to preserve the quality of the picture. I also learned to think about how to model and cut a model in order to subsequently apply the texture to it via UV, working with nodes helped me understand what specular map, normal map, roughness map, albedo map are used for, how to connect them, helped me to understand the nodes work and settings and connections in order to get the effect I needed. It gave me understandings of the settings of metalness, reflectiveness, subsurface scattering, and many other settings that adjust the material close to our eye in terms of lighting, reflect, and the light and other parameters. I had quite a hard time finding wood grain in long growth. All textures were made very close. It was impossible to even make a table out of them. Not even a log texture. Editing texture in Photoshop was also not possible because you edit not only the albedo map, but also the others. And you cannot do it in the same way. The easiest way is to create texture in programs Substance Painter or Substance Designer. Now you know what is gonna be next steps when you start modeling in Maya or Blender. 4. I created the rope for the model by creating nerve circles and pulling mesh out of it, as well as twisting the texture to make the model more realistic. To do this, I had to look at the pictures of rope to understand their visual structure and find a technical solution to do so. For the rope, I also created a switch between the rigged rope and enclosed simulation rope. If the first one allows you to lift the rope and twist it for animation, for example how a character lifts a rope with a basket full of water and pours it into his basket, enclosed allows the rope to fall down under the weight of gravity automatically in order to be able to unwind over the cylinder and collect the rope at the top automatically, like in this video. I still haven't finished the enclosed simulation. Like, it works, but it's not working in the way that I want to. So it's in my future plans, let's say. It works with the gravity and stretching, but it's not twisting over the cylinder when you try to roll it. Conclusion. Working on this model greatly improved my skills and gave me a lot to learn on and understand about modeling and working in Maya. In the way of thinking about a project, when you know in advance how you're going to animate a certain model, it already gives you a certain direction how to model this model, and understanding how to create a model suitable for animation or use in projects for certain criteria, be it games, cartoon, VFX, video, movies, etc., as well as program settings. And now I can comfortably navigate among the many buttons because I know where to look for and how to solve the resulting problems. I also learned from my mistakes what not to do and how to do. I'm glad to share this piece of project mine. That's quite important for me and my story. I wish you all good luck in your work, fulfillment of your desires. It was Karina. Have a nice day.